Yeah. Do you think that like regular meditation and connecting with your core self will start to diminish and disillusion your worldly stuff? Like, will you maybe have less desires in the world? Do you think that that's a thing, or does it just keep blazing along?
Yeah, you'll have less desires.
Less desires.
Because you'll be satisfied.
Yeah. So
it's not really a loss. It's because as you become more satisfied, you just see that the things that you had sought for before are not totally satisfactory. And once again, it doesn't mean you give up your worldly life. It doesn't mean you quit your job, find a new job. Maybe you will. Doesn't mean you have to become a vegetarian or run off and join an ashram somewhere. Maybe you will. Maybe you run off to India, but you don't have to do that. You have yourself. It's with you. Your own enlightened teacher is your true self, and that is always with you.
So when you're meditating, you're connecting with it. I personally have struggled a little bit with, so when I'm meditating, I'm in this great place. I feel like in this wonderful space. But then when I go into my life, I can still get incredibly ruffled by the world, right? So trying to become more meditative in my day in, day out situations has been something that I've been working on for a minute. And I think the Buddhists, they do like the walking is part of the conscious walking. They do a walking meditation to try to get you to learn how to transfer that same sort of alpha brainwave, that deep peace, that sense of self that you're developing in your meditation into your everyday stuff. So you're at Safeway, you're in your alpha wave, you are meditating actively as you're picking out your celery for the day or whatever. Like your whole life would become transformed in this way. But as a person who's meditated for a while, that's been a bridge that has been a little bit hard for me to cross. I've sort of compartmentalized for a long time my meditations away from, I remember, this is kind of a funny thing, a long time ago when I was first early in meditation, I used to get really mad at my ex-husband if he would interrupt me. He would interrupt me and I would just be like, "Rah!" So mad.
Can't you see I'm trying to be at peace?
Totally. It was just like this most ridiculous thing. But I just had not transferred that information into my regular life. I just developed this little pod, and it was an enjoyable pod unless anything from the world came in, and then I was just trashed. So it's like as the years have gone on, that has changed for sure. I definitely have a stronger sense of baseline peace across the board. But
well, what you just said is a very important observation, though. So one thing we do find is that when you are responding to yourself and you are really connecting with yourself, your true self, you will find that you'll have egoic reactions. So there's something going on here, and this leads me to another way I wanted to help you guys to understand this and what we're talking about when we're talking about spiritual awakening, because once again, this is a term that most people don't understand what we're really discussing here. It's just a phrase that's thrown around out there, and people don't really get it. So I want to help give you a little way to think about this and to help you to understand this. And you just led me right to this point here. So think about this. When you were a very young child, when you're born into this world, just imagine a baby. A baby's born into this world. That baby has nothing, has no real attachments to the world, has no real understanding of time, grasp of the temporal, progression. Doesn't have any idea that there's a future. It's not sitting around thinking, I hope mom takes me back to that park. Babies are just totally present. They're totally present. And by the way, haven't you noticed when you look into a little baby's eyes how beautiful and clear and sparkling their eyes are? Almost all of them are like this. Why? They're pure presence. That's why. That is what we are. And isn't it interesting too that, for instance, Jesus, a great, you could call a great spiritual master, let's just leave it at that, from thousands of years ago, instructed his disciples that they must become as little children again.
Yeah.
That is the way. And it's just purity, it's innocence, it's no judgment.
And
They're
they haven't taken on a specific ego.
They've
in the
taken
same
on
way,
no ego.
So they're just sort of free of all of the junk, you know? It's amazing.
Totally. And then what happens? So we gradually start learning. We start learning our language. We learn our name.
Oh,
and that
boy.
name's attached to our body. And we learn that we are a body. You know, if you're running along as a little kid and you fall down and you bang your knee into something, your mom will say, oh, you hurt yourself. You hurt yourself. So we begin really very young identifying the body as the self. So now we have this, and we've added it onto what we are naturally, which is pure presence. And then, so now we have a body, and this is our self. And we have a name attached to that. And then we learn all kinds of things. We start learning languages, so all these words about all these things outside of us. And we learn about our relationships. So we learn we're a brother or a sister. We learn we're a son, a daughter, right? And then we learn we're a student, because eventually we have to go to official school. And then, it goes on and on and on throughout life. And we keep adding on all these things. We start developing likes and dislikes, biases and prejudices, and we all have them whether or not we're aware of this. It's natural in this world to do that. And all of this stuff, over time becomes a very heavy egoic structure.
Yeah.
It's stuff that's lumped on to that self and covers up that self. And we become so lost in this personal identity and its life story, moving through the world and trying to survive in the world and everything else that goes along with it, that by the time we're adults, we have completely lost touch with that beautiful, innocent, pure essence that is free of all this garbage.